Right, morning everybody.
Good morning.
Whoever's out there, welcome to our webinar on English language A-level. Maybe you've decided, maybe you've fully decided to do English language, maybe you're still deciding. Hopefully we won't put you off too much. We've just got sort of a little bit of information about the course, which you might know already or not. A few little exercises which will give you a little bit of insight into the type of things that we might look at in English language, and then an opportunity at the end for you to ask us a few questions in the chat or whatever, and just find out a little bit more about what we do. I'm Helen, and this is Sophie.
I'm Sophie, and I can speak, by the way, just in case you thought I couldn't.
Thank you. Sophie thinks we're like a double act, but actually I'm in charge.
She is.
and yeah, let's get. We're both obviously we're both teaching English language at the college, and let's get on with it. So let's have a go at sharing the screen. First challenge of the day. Right. Hopefully you can see that.
Perfect.
Okay, so welcome to, again, I've said this already, but welcome to English Language A-level. I can't emphasize how welcome you are. And before we do one or two little exercises, just a little bit of information about the course. What is English Language A-level? Sometimes people are not completely sure what it is. You'll know what you think English language is from GCSE, but it's not always obvious what A-level would involve. So as you can see, you've got on the screen there various things that we cover. We do sort of start out by building on your GCSE skills. You'd find out that a lot of the terminology you're already good at from your English studies is built on in English language. So I think we don't get off to a very scary start. We sort of reassure you that there's lots you know already. But then, of course, we go into more sort of in-depth stuff. We do something called the language framework. So we give you the tools that you need for analysing text and also spoken language in a lot more depth and detail than you have before. Hopefully that will make it more interesting than it's been before. That's obviously what we'd hope when you specialise at A-level. We might look at things, as you can see, like variations in language, accent, dialect. We look at slang sometimes and people's attitudes to that. We study quite a range of things in language that raise issues. So language empowered, language and gender, language and technology. All of these things involve issues that are drawn from the world around us. So we might look at something like that, this morning's paper, sort of newspaper headlines. A lot of the stuff that we use is very up to the minute because we look at the way language works in the world around us. As you can see, we look at how children learn to speak. We look at the way language is used in the media, how language changes. And then if you are kind of interested in the coursework exam split, exams is 80%, and the coursework, where you do your own sort of investigation into an area of language, is 20% of your final mark. Now, for those of you who are still deciding whether to do literature, language and literature language, 20% is the amount of coursework that you do in any of those courses. So if you've got any questions about any of that, please do ask us at the end. Hopefully makes some sort of sense. So as a starting point, I'd like you to look at this. Hopefully you can see that there's a slide here with
your screen sharing.
Hopefully you can see that
no, that's the doodle.
Okay. Sorry,
it's all right. A few technical problems here. Oh, there we go.
Okay, hopefully you can see that there's an advert on the screen there. I will eventually finish my sentence, I promise. It's pretty self-explanatory. What I'd like, just if anybody's prepared to give us a bit of contribution, it's just a few ideas from you, just to sort of suggest how this works. So one of the things we look at in English language, and you will be familiar with this, is how a text works. How is language used to get a purpose and a message across? So just over the next couple of minutes, just put into the chat, I assume there is a chat somewhere here.
We'll find it.
We will. Just put into the chat Um,
Oh,
anything that you
won't be able
think,
to see the chat.
anything that you think is important about this? What sort of things do you notice with the language there?
And in particular, are there any patterns that you notice? Because a lot of what we do is looking at patterns in language as well. So, you know, what sort of patterns do you notice, as in the words that are used? And I think we'll have to stop share to do the check the box.
Okay,
so give me a minute.
So we're going to give you a couple of minutes for that. If you could just, we won't be commenting on things as they come up, but.
Oh, Q&A. You can go to Q. Excellent. Oh, we've got a Q&A. Well done.
Okay, thank you.
Lilybeth King. Oh, is that answer live? Oh, hang on. Do we have to do it like that? Okay, well done, Lilybeth King. Thank you. And Ines, informal. It is quite informal.
That's right. Very casual, says Amara. That's right. Repetition of the word you.
Got to try and keep up with this now.
As you can see, you've got the world's two leading technology experts on the case.
You're not enrolling for ICT, which is a brilliant course.
Oh, wow, this is brilliant, everybody. Tosser does have a double meaning, Alice, yes.
Yes, yes, good. Making people guilty, good. So motive, yeah. Khatija, well done. Confronting you, yes, it's quite confrontational, isn't it? Alice, I don't understand why you have to click on it to answer it. Yes, Tosser, thank you, Alice. Yes, sorry. And Ria, I don't know if they're hearing this without having to answer it.
Really, you're absolutely right that this isn't that it isn't polite. I mean, if you or somebody could sort of suggest why it isn't polite. I mean, we often try to be polite, don't we, to try to kind of get on the right side of people or to be persuasive. So why isn't this polite? Or is there some? Perhaps there is some sense in which it is polite.
Jazz, informal verb tosser, emphasises the reader how careless the action it is. Tossing, yeah, and then we've got it as a noun, tosser there as well. Well done. Demanding, absolutely. Aaron. Libby, abrupt, simplistic.
Yeah, that's right, Libby. That's a good one, Libby. I mean, these are all good, but to be abrupt and simplistic takes us to the genre of the text as well. What type of thing it is? You know, it's not a kind of 2 pages of a novel, is it? It's something that needs to be seen and understood very quickly.
Well done, Maria. Oh, hang on, it's trying to do type. I'm gonna have to do that. Sorry, I had to. Sorry, Maria. I didn't know if I could speak. And Joshua. Let's have a look. Direct address, hold people accountable. Absolutely. Good. Direct address.
Amara, that's a very good point. You can certainly.
I don't know if you have to answer live like that. There you go.
I don't know. Oh, see, right, yes. Amara, you say they use the word please. So I think it was Ria earlier said it's not polite, and that's right, isn't it? I mean, certainly the word tosser is a word that obviously, as someone said, it's got a double meaning, but we don't necessarily see it as a polite word, do we? But then they use the word please. And we can argue that it's polite. That's right. So one of the things we look at in English language is that kind of use of politeness, how we kind of select these sort of polite terms just to try to kind of get our own way with people. So you brought your rubbish here, please take it home with you. It's almost like there's a little argument going on there, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, well done, Aaron. Yeah, straightforward. Yeah, it has to be clear and accessible because we obviously don't spend much time reading texts like this. We scan the first part of a text, but then traditionally our eyes actually don't follow and read the whole one.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the slide now, everybody. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
You're already my best class ever.
What do you mean they're your class?
This is going to be my class, that's right. Okay, so thank you again. Here are a few of the things that we came up with ourselves, but obviously this is by no means everything you could say, and most of the stuff you see here has been said already. It uses direct address, it uses a question, it challenges the reader. Not all questions challenge the reader, do they? But some types of question do. I don't think it's quite a rhetorical question because it does have an answer, doesn't it? Why are you tossing litter? If you're tossing litter around, you do have a reason for it. It's just a bit unusual to be asked that question. It's got simple direct sentences. Some of you have commented on that tone of it. It uses the word I, the pronoun I, to sort of shame the reader. So it's almost as if it wants the reader to imagine themselves answering that question. It uses an imperative, which is the language term for a command, as I'm sure you know, don't be a tosser. What that does, it imposes power, and then you've got the double meaning of the word tosser. So people are going to notice that, aren't they, and go, hang on a minute, that's a bit of a rude word to use in a public communication. But that way, they're really, and I think somebody said this in the chat, they're really enforcing their negative view about litter on the reader of York Council notices. So it's a very specific part of the country there as well. So there's that balance between how it's rude and but it's also it's also meant to be effective as well. Okay, thank you all. Shall we move on?
Yes, go on then. 66 participants.
Okay, obviously we're just sort of showing you little bits and pieces here about what two adverts there about what sorts of things we do in language. I mean, there's all sorts of things we could look at. One of the topics that we do is language and gender. As you can probably imagine, language and gender throws up all sorts of issues and ideas and questions for us. Your next question, and again, just a few ideas into the chat, is what do these adverts, and these are quite old adverts, you can probably tell that they're not recent, they're from the 50s, 60s, that sort of era, perhaps even a bit earlier. What do these adverts suggest to us about what it means to be male or female? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, if you want to put some bits into the Q&A for us, obviously this introduces you to the idea of gender stereotyping, and it's quite a topical issue across the course. So it's something we pick up on throughout the actual course. So let's have a look.
Amara's.
Go on then, Amara. Let's have a look at Amara's. So men are rational, but women are dramatic and emotional. She's crying over burnt beer.
That's right.
Absolutely, well done. Second advert suggests women should be happy, pretty, and second advert, pretty and have children.
Yeah.
It's
interesting that you're noticing what the adverts suggest. I mean, these adverts, one of them is advertising beer, as you can see, and one of them is advertising washing machines or something. So they're not neither of them are saying this is how you have to think about men and women and whatever else. They are but it can be argued that through these adverts we get an idea about what these roles in the world are.
Yeah, well done, Khadija. Stereotypically domestic. And Ria, females are always meant to be in the kitchen. Yeah, and we even see adverts that are similar to this now also as well. When you are on television and things, you know, you can actually see quite a lot of gender stereotyping still going on. Alice, the first one could be suggesting that the man cares more about his beer than the food, the potential danger the fire could have caused. Oh, very health and safety aware there. Isabel insinuates women should do the household work.
That's right.
Absolutely. And Rose implies stereotypes of men and women. Well done, Rose. Amara, useful for housework. The husband's talking about buying her appliances. Absolutely. I bought her. So again, that's also to do with power within society. Washing is for women and women only. If that's Eva, I think you might be an Eva. Not sure. Aaron, a male in those times was shown as being more superior than women. Yeah, and you've got quite a good sort of, when you look at the actual image and the positioning of the man and the woman in the one on the left.
And it's interesting, Ariane, that you've used the phrase "in those times," which reminds us that one of the things we look at is context. So we don't just look at the language itself; we look at how that language relates to the times that it was in. So we might think these adverts are very, very old-fashioned, and we might say, well, that was the 1950s. That's how people saw men and women in the 1950s. But we might also think they raise issues that are still relevant to us now.
Yeah. And Naima, damsels in distress, need the man to save them.
She's a definite damsel in distress, isn't she? That first woman.
Very sort of, and we also look at things like the paralinguistics within text. So we might have a part of an image that's used and we look at the body language or facial expression, etc. So you're doing really well with this. Gabrielle, implies a woman's happiness comes from being domestic and caring for her husband. Absolutely. Amara, interesting comment about the suit, suggesting power, also suggesting that the man is the breadwinner. And again, economic power is sort of suggested in both of them. Abisa, woman seen as a trophy wife. Yes, well done. Yeah,
I like the way women in these adverts often have, even though they've clearly been at home all day and are now cooking their husband's tea, they've still got kind of perfect hair and makeup.
Funny that.
Yeah.
A bit like our
A bit like us, yeah.
Coiffing.
Although with perfect hair and makeup.
Yeah. Libby implies men weren't all the way that they are thought to be in that time, trying to comfort her and think of an alternative. Okay, so perhaps the man being supportive is an interpretation in there. Interesting. Akia, you can tell the male role is more dominant. The woman is obedient, indeed. And again, Akia, second advert tells us to believe women are just around to provide men of family to clean and cook. Let's have a look at who's there. Patriarchy, that's very well done. Excellent use of the term patriarchy. Again, picking up on the clothing, so more formally than the woman.
That's right. Yeah, that sort of suggests to us, without actually saying so, that tells us, doesn't it, that the man's been to work.
Yeah.
And the woman has possibly not.
Yeah, absolutely. Maria relates back to sexism, stereotypical view. Yes. Maria, yes, I've got you for my interviews tomorrow. Look forward to meeting you. Lilybeth, one on the right suggests women's lives revolve around washing, drying, household jobs. And also it's back in the economic time when actually it's quite an interesting paradox when the development of this sort of technology did actually free family time and women's time in particular to do different things with their lives. So that's always quite interesting to explore.
Good point from Erin there. The man could be shown to be superior, as his comment could be seen as quite patronising. I think you're absolutely right there, Erin. But another interesting thing you've picked up there is tone, and whereas actually what you've got is a printed written text there. So the way that we kind of get ideas from written text about how we sound when we speak is certainly something that we look at, and you can see that on the right as well, can't you? Boy, yeah. Am I glad I bought her a new hot point washer. You get the sense of somebody talking there.
And you get the sense of possession as well with the pronoun use, my. So there's all sorts of things. Rose, let's have a look. Rose, intellectually superior, the outfit he's wearing, smart and control. Yeah, well done. And you've also got the passivity of her body language as well. Excellent. Well done. Marvellous. Well, we're going to move on to our stop share.
Well,
hold on. Oh, hello, we're back again.
Hello.
Share screen. Just in case you thought we disappeared.
We're not showing the next slide.
That one. Yeah.
If we just share that, we'll just round that off. That little bit. Okay. Bear with us, please.
I don't think I've got 10 minutes.
That's all right.
So we're going to do the next one.
We had a little video, but obviously we've run out of time for that a little bit. But just to sort of show you a little, to wrap that up really, language and gender is one of the topics that we look at. So some of the things you might cover when you look at that topic, and also you might do your coursework about this as well. So that big 20% of the course is largely to do with language and gender. Things like, do men and women speak differently? How do depictions of men and women, for example, in the media, affect the way we see those social groups? So basically that's what you've just done with those adverts. What stereotypes do we see? Some of you mentioned stereotypes. So what? Advertisers use stereotypes. They need to attract target audiences. But to what extent are these problematic is something else that we would think about. And although I don't think we've got time to kind of go through all of this, I think we've been ambitious with what we've included.
Nothing wrong with ambition.
Included here. Perhaps we didn't expect quite so many. Perhaps we didn't expect quite so many really good answers from everybody.
We could do a few minutes on that and then go to any Q&As.
Okay. Just another example of a language and gender exercise. Look at the following phrases. What do they mean? How could they be considered sexist? Just have a look at these phrases. If you've got any sort of thoughts or comments on whether any of these could be sort of seen as problematic in terms of maybe sexism, in terms of gender. Any comments that you've got there? This is a very quick version, by the way, of something that we would possibly spend quite a while on in class, because we do look at the way language kind of links up to these bigger social issues.
And we would also, in terms of looking at the development and language change unit, you would look at some of the phrases of things like this and weave in, you know, the idea of maiden name or sow your wild oats are actually quite antiquated phrases, and they come from a different era. And we'd look at language development as well. So there's lots of interesting crossovers across the course. That's what I find fascinating.
Oh, okay, we have a contributor.
Okay.
So thank you, Arian. The phrases are mostly linked with men as they imply to be superior. Okay. So perhaps an example of that might be man and wife. Man and wife is a phrase that's used in the marriage ceremony. Perhaps it's not, perhaps there's nothing wrong with it at all, but putting man first and then referring to the woman as wife rather than woman, possibly. Man flu could suggest, man flu could suggest there's a special or stronger type of flu. That's right, yeah. I mean, these are comedy phrases, aren't they? Man up, man flu, wear the trousers. But in gender studies, sometimes people question whether it's sort of actually a good idea to let these phrases become part of our common conversation or not. And Lilibeth, thank you for your comment about man up. Reinforces a traditional view of men being emotionless and serious. So we don't, when we look at language and gender, we do ask the question, is language sexist? But we don't just sort of focus that on being unfair to women. We would look at that from all sides. Khadija, thank you. Women are expected to be the problem. Boys will be boys. Yeah.
Good. That's good, Jazz. Yeah.
Jazz, thank you. The woman is dehumanized in man and wife. That's a really good point. Yep, Fatima, men are stereotypically expected to be emotionally and mentally stronger. So yeah, I mean, sometimes those stereotypes, we could argue when they're repeated through language, do make life a bit more difficult for some kind of groups of people. Phrase will be boys dismisses their responsibility. Thank you, Naima.
A good one, Akir. Yeah, grow a pair.
Yeah, so telling a man to be braver by saying grow a pair. I mean, again, it's meant to be funny, but at the same time, is it kind of making people feel that they're inadequate if they don't act in a certain way? Isabel, thank you. Boys will be boys could excuse their behaviour. I think we'll take about 3 or 4 more, and then we'll need to move on to the Q&A. So apologies in advance if your comment isn't acknowledged.
Lots of comments in there, though. Well done.
But this is really good, everybody. So Neela McNulty. To wear the trousers reinforce there need to be a patriarchal structure. That's really good. So the word patriarchal means to be kind of dominated by men. Boys will be boys excuses men's reckless behaviour. Thank you, Sienna. Arian, thank you. Man up means someone needs to be stronger. That's right. Also, it's sometimes used to suggest that men shouldn't be emotional, and that could be a problem as well. And then grow a pair suggests that men are stronger physically and mentally.
It's like the word, being called a girl is quite an insult, isn't it? Oh, you girl. You hear it quite a lot, don't you?
Sometimes you do, yeah. Anyway, that's a bit of a whistle stop. Apologies if anyone puts anything in that we don't acknowledge, but we're going to just move on to, just in case you've got any questions. There's a lot of stuff on these slides, which we won't go through now. Thank you very much. I think we both would like all of you in our classes next year.
Definitely.
Based on that. And even if you haven't contributed to that, which is absolutely fine, I very much hope that you've got something out of it. And if you were planning to do English language, I hope that you still are. And that's the best we can hope for from our session this morning.
So if you've got any questions or you want anything for us to answer, we've got about 5 minutes or 4.5 minutes left. So if you've got any questions about the course or, timetables or things like that, we won't be able to answer everything, obviously, but, we're across both campuses, etc. So we won't be able to tell you where you'd be based.
Right, we're going to stop the sharing as well, I think, aren't we?
I think so.
So that you can look at us.
So if you've got any... Any questions? Just pop them in the Q&A box.
Okay, I'll answer the first one because I know the answer to Fatima's question.
Two. So do I.
You'd sit 2 exams. The exams are both 2.5 hours, and you sit them at the end of the second year. So there'll be mock exams along the way, but then you've got sort of 2 big exams at the end of it. Each one of those is worth 40% of the course. In terms of how many lessons we have, thank you, Akaya. You'll have about 4.5 hours of lessons a week. I'm going to be a little bit careful about answering that question because our timetable's been different this year because of COVID and everything. And we think we'll be going back to what we had before next year, which was basically 4 lessons a week of English language.
You tend to have 2 teachers, so you have 2 lessons with one and 2 with another.
To answer a question, Sophie.
Oh, thank you very much. Hi, Sky. Any creative writing essays? Well, we do a creative writing as in a non-fiction style, which is on paper 1, which links into topical issues. So again, it could link into gender or language change or anything really, technology. But we also do other sorts of writing throughout the course, but we don't do, the Lang Lit course does a creative retelling. So you do more of a creative sort of story narrative type on that side of the course. But we do brilliant non-fiction, so it's much better.
You'll end up writing things, you could end up writing something like an article or a blog or a talk or something like that.
Yeah.
Will these lessons be able, I believe so.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you think so, Elizabeth?
Elizabeth. Apologies if we've got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they will be. Amara,
revision.
Tips on revision. That's a big one for a couple of minutes, isn't it? But do you have any tips on basing revision? Well, you're expected to do probably about sort of 3 or 4 hours study a week in a normal week.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with English language is you will notice a big jump up in terms of the range of key terminology that you have between GCSE, Lang and Lit and English language. You know, there's quite a scientific edge to it. So you need to be able to work on improving your memory. So always using revision of 5, because your front memory, short-term memory works in blocks of 5. So, you know, group things into groups of 5. You can revise when you're on the bus and doing all sorts. So it depends on your sort of memory capacity, but you do need to be able to get to grips in the first year with the vocabulary of the subject. Oh, Aaron, poetry. Ooh, well,
not
no.
really,
no. Poetry and creative writing tends to sit on the literature or Lang Lit. We are more specialist in looking at non-fiction, but we also look at some extracts of fiction and think about how, you know, perhaps stereotyping, etc. appears in that. So, yeah.
Okay, so Amara, what are research methods? Now that's something you would do as part of the coursework. A research method in terms of this course is where you gather your own data. So for example, you might decide to explore the question, do men talk more than women, or something like that? And to do that, one of the ways you might do it, you might record your friends talking and sort of transcribe those conversations. So in other words, kind of make a written record of them and then apply different theories to them and just see if those theories are supported or not. And that's a very brief example of what research methods are. You would have done some research if you did that.
Okay, so we've only got about a minute left. So resources we will need to have for this course. You will have things provided for you. You'll have booklets and all sorts of things. Our biggest tip, I would say, Akia, is to read lots of non-fiction articles, blogs, The Guardian, tabloids, broadsheets. The more reading you can do, the better, because understanding the context of text is really important. And
keep up to date with things in the news as well. Yeah, just even if they're just kind of little things, just kind of something that isn't necessarily the main story.
Yeah.
But it's just something that's being talked about. Even if you just look at Twitter or something like that, just so you can see what sorts of things people are talking about nowadays. That will be helpful with English language. Libby, I'm going to give you the most annoying answer to that question, which is anything goes well with English language.
What you like and what you enjoy.
What you enjoy. Bear in mind that English language doesn't have any literature in it. That might sound like an obvious point, but just be careful with if you do want to sort of study Shakespeare or poetry or something, you're better off with the literature course. However, if you like both sides of,
You can do them both.
you can do them both if you're.
But you can't do Lang Lit and English language.
Yeah, that's right.
In law, history, sociology, whatever you're interested in, really, Libby. And we're at 12 o'clock, so we're going to have to go.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Lovely rest of the day and rest of the summer, and we look forward to meeting you all
of you.
No exceptions.
Yeah, all of you.
In September.
Thanks for your contributions.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Take care.